Welcome to the third episode, Series 4 of Dialogues on the Art of Arab Dress. I am Emma Farmer, COO of the ZAY Initiative. I'm absolutely delighted to see so many old friends joining us tonight, and also so many new ones. Some housekeeping. We encourage you to use the chat function, firstly, to tell us where you are from and how you're feeling today, but also to add your thoughts about the presentation. Please do select audience and panelists so that everyone can see. Unfortunately, Zoom automatically puts panelists rather than panelists and audience. Due to the unique nature of this session, we anticipate that the talk may overrun. Sit back, relax. We will still take Q&A at the end. If you're tight on time, don't worry. The full recording will be sent to you tomorrow to catch up on in your own time. Please add all your questions to the Q&A function on Zoom. Right, enough from me. Please allow me to introduce you to the one and only Dr. Reem Mutwalli, who in turn will introduce Widad. Thank you, Dr. Reem.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm trying to navigate this thing. Something is not connecting. Emma, can you hear me?
We can hear you beautifully, Dr. Reem, and we can see you beautifully.
Okay. So welcome to all of you who joined us, and greetings wherever you are in the globe. For those who are joining us for the first time, allow me to briefly explain what does ZAY mean. ZAY is our name, and it originates from the Arabic language. It simply means the costume and general attire of certain country or era. And why Arabic? Because ZAY Initiative is concerned with the legacy of the Arab world. An Arab, like an American, is a cultural trait rather than a racial one. The Arab world is full of rich and diverse communities, ethnicities, religions, groups, and cultures, including Muslims, Christians, Jews, Yazidis, and other minorities. Differences do exist, not only among countries, but within countries as well. There are 200 million Arabs worldwide. Generally, anyone who adopts the Arabic language is typically called an Arab. So who are we? Simply put, we are the ZAY Initiative. We collect the tangible and to narrate the intangible. We collect artifacts to help record the stories of those who used or wore them. We are building a strong digital platform to represent Arab culture to the world. In today's dialogue, we will be touching on the dress and culture of Palestine, the heart of the Arab and Islamic Ummah. We have a saying in Arabic, إذا حضر الماء بطل تيمم. When water is present, all other forms of ablution, be it sand or wind, are negated. So today I will take the back seat as I will join you all in listening to this privileged session. I am humbled today as I try to find the words to introduce to you our guest, an icon, a friend, and a personal role model to me. From the day we met, very early on in my youth, she has left her imprint on the course of my life. She was the first to support the formation of the ZAY initiative. She accepted my invitation to join our creative advisors, endorsing us and lending validity to the work we are engaging in. And she encouraged others to follow suit. Born in Tul Karam, she grew in Bethlehem, received her education at the Ramallah Quaker School, and studied at the American University of Beirut. She has spent her life researching, collecting, preserving the heritage of Palestine through its dress culture, an endeavor that evolved into the Widad Kawar collection, the largest to date of Palestinian traditional dress and accessories, amassing more than 3,000 items. You will shortly listen to Sid Widad sharing the story of her life. You will find that much of her knowledge is forged from the personal narratives of the women whose embroideries and dressmaking skills she cultivated and admired, where her personal journey and life's passion pays homage to Palestinian women, past, present, and future. I am honored to have you with us, Sid Widad. أهلا وسهلا فيكي.
And I'm happy to be with you too.
You look wonderful, and I wanted us to start today on your journey by inviting you to tell us about your life. You grew up in Palestine and studied in Lebanon, and then you married and came to Jordan, Amman, Jordan. Please tell us how your upbringing and personal experiences shaped your passion for the traditional dress and embroidery, and how you started your collecting.
Thank you, Reem. You are really doing great work for the Arab heritage. And I just have to say this sentence, though it is a little negative: the Arab heritage at the present is in danger.
Very true.
Why and how, I don't know. The listeners have to work and find out more about it. It's a homework. Going back to what influenced me in my home and in my school, Palestine in the 40s was under the mandate, and the mandate had the system of dividing the country into areas or districts, whatever they called them. And in every district, they assigned a special day, which would be market day. Every district had a number of areas around a city. And that on that market day, all the men and women who have any business in the market would come, bring their goods and sell their vegetables, their fruits, and buy whatever they want. Our home was on the main road. So by chance, Saturday was the market day for Bethlehem, Friday for Jerusalem, Wednesday for Ramallah, and so on. On Saturday, on the market day of Bethlehem, I would stand always on the balcony to watch the village ladies coming from the different villages around Jerusalem, something like Malha, Lifta, Bijala, and many other places, and to sell their goods. And they looked beautiful because it is a habit that when a woman leaves her home, she wears her best, whether it is to the market or for anything that is very festivities. So they were wearing their best dresses, their best jewelry, and the best embroidered shawls on their heads. Around noontime, I would see this woman coming back, and the baskets on their head that held the fruits and vegetables were full of colored threads and fabrics and whatever went to make their beautiful dress. Because the dress in Bethlehem was really very special. It had a different embroidery. It had the couching embroidery with mainly either gold thread or cord or silver threads. And the stitch of couching is different to the rest of Palestine. The rest of Palestine had cross stitch, and in Bethlehem they had the couching. Also, their fabric was so different. It was a mixed weave of silk and linen. They used to import it from outside, but then a factory started and opened in Bethlehem. Now, you can see on the campaign, the Bethlehem couching, the embroidery, and it is beautifully done. And you can also see the fabric, the Bethlehem fabric, which every woman bought and embroidered. Then I went to school during that time, which is in the 40s. I went to school to Ramallah as a boarding student. And there I found the same atmosphere. Ramallah was a very traditional town like Bethlehem. And they would wear their own togs, their own village dress. But their embroidered different. But every home I entered, when the girls invited me to their home, there I saw their mothers and sisters and aunts embroidering. And they embroidered their dresses and they embroidered their head shawls. We had a teacher there by the name of Phyllis Sutton. Phyllis Sutton started 2 clubs. One club was for gardening, and she always wanted us to garden look for the herbs that were used in Palestine, like nana and baqdunus and. And the other club was for embroidery. And she herself was collecting the patterns of embroidery that were used in Ramallah. She and another friend of hers, and here is the pamphlet they produced, and this pamphlet was published in 1935.
Amazing.
About the Ramallah patterns. This is the dress of Ramallah. You can see it.
I did my research, Widad, and I've been trying to find this book. It's not available. It's such
It's so old, from 1935, and I'm sure there were few were few around. She and her friend Christina Jones produced it.
Was this part of the time when
not valuable?
Yeah.
It is small, but really it has its value, because it recorded these patterns at that certain time. And the thing is, both women were Quakers. So we saw and understood a Quaker influence on the Ramallah pattern, as the Ramallah patterns were in the 20s and then early 30s, and then came that Quaker influence, which is recorded here. So it helps people who are working on the history of embroidery.
So they were one of the first 2 persons who collected and documented these stitches.
Right, who documented the stitching, but too bad it was only Ramallah and its area, the villages around Ramallah only. Then back to Bethlehem, I went to Beirut to continue my studies. And there, it so happened by coincidence that Mrs. Sutton also came to teach at the university, and she also made the same club. She made the club she had in Ramallah. She had left Ramallah and came to teach in the girls' college in
Mm.
Beirut. Yeah.
And from there, you became interested in collecting it. Is this what started your passion?
Interested in the embroidery.
Okay.
Not so much in collecting, but in the embroidery itself and how it is made and how these women are attached to it. And the only thing they do when they have free time is to sit and embroider. And then you will see later how it developed into a business.
And you came back from your studies to live in Jordan?
Now, when I finished my studies in Beirut, I came back to Bethlehem, to my home, and I was thinking all the time of this beautiful scene of the woman going to the market and back from the market and carrying the things to sell. But when I arrived, I'm speaking of 1950. I went to Beirut in 1948, and I'm speaking of 1950. And when I came, I didn't see any woman that used to pass from the streets. So I knew I knew of the war. I knew that things were changing, but not to that degree. It was a very, very big change. So waited for Saturday and went again to the market. And in the market, I saw some of the same women that I used to see before. And it was a very, very sad sight. They looked sad, they looked tired, their dresses were faded and not the same festive dresses that they had before. And they could hardly say, hello, how are you? They were not themselves. They were not the people I knew. And of course, this is after the war. And maybe some of them were driven out of their villages. Some of them were, I could not tell much, but I can see the situation. Now, I did not do much then, but I went again another week. And I saw that some of them, beside their vegetables, had some embroidered pieces, old embroidered pieces. And they were for sale. It is the first time I thought of, I want to save some of the past picture I had before. So I bought some of those pieces and took them home. But they don't mean much because they don't form a complete dress. They don't say much. They're beautiful, but they don't say much. Anyway, then I went again. And they even told me, you ask about the pieces. Why don't you ask for a complete dress? We have some of the complete dress, but they are old. They are very old and faded. If you like, we can get them. And they start getting some dresses. Although they were faded, they said a lot, those costumes.
Widad, I just wanted you to maybe clarify to our audience that these dresses are composed of pieces, certain pieces that these women embroider.
Right, right.
And they make it, because you were buying the pieces, and maybe our audience will not understand that you are getting the old components of the dress, and then they asked you to make the whole dress and to get the whole dress.
Yes, because every dress has certain pieces that are repeated by every other woman. It is the most important piece is what we call the kabbe, the square here near the collar, near the neck. This is one. Then you have two triangles, long triangles on the sides. And this is three. And then you have the sleeves. And you have a piece that comes on the back. Two on the back, one at the lower part of the dress and one near the neck. They embroider pieces and leave them aside, but when the girl gets engaged or she knows she's getting married soon, they put the pieces together. But these pieces are embroidered and stay aside as they are. So when they brought for me what I bought, they brought it to the market, they cut the embroidered pieces. They brought me the pieces because they thought the other part of the dress is of no use.
And they have special names, these pieces.
Yes.
And you're telling me about that. I wish you could share it with our audience.
Yeah, if they can remember them. We have the piece here on the chest. This is the most important one. It's called kabbe. Kabbe. Yeah. And we have the two triangles on the sides, badayiq, badayiq, qaf at the end. And then we have the pieces on the sleeves, sawa'id, they are called sawa'id. And then we have a piece at the lower part of the dress and a piece up near the neck called radfi. The piece at the neck is called radfi. And what else? Yeah. And
So
then they changed later on, they changed.
And Sid Widad, when you started collecting these pieces and you started collecting the dresses, I think one of the most important elements that you experienced was you were beginning to collect the stories of the women that made those dresses. And you had wonderful stories that you shared with me. And you started it with this dress, I think, here, one of your special dresses that you have.
Yes. I'll tell you, I think if I didn't talk enough to the woman and heard the stories, I might not have gone on with collecting, because it is the stories and talking to the woman that made me attached to the whole idea, the whole heritage, the culture, the dress. It's talking to them and knowing what a life they have been to, what difficulty they have passed through, and how, when there is ever a difficulty, a war, or anything, a disaster, it's the woman who starts life again. And she never forgets her embroidery, even in wars. And it is the woman who started on her family life again and again in the village, whenever there was a catastrophe around.
This is one,
yeah.
right? With a special story.
Yes. Everything, nearly every dress, I would insist that I tell the story of. Now, how things travel, how they change from period to period. And this is one dress, it's a beautiful dress from Beit Dajan area. Beit Dajan is a village near Jaffa, famous for its oranges. I will show you the sleeve because the sleeve has so much in it. The sleeve has the embroidery in silver thread. It has the silk under the embroidery. It has the linen, the other part is made of linen, and it has the petals that are of Bethlehem, and the embroidery, the stitch of Bethlehem. Now, the story is there was a man by the name of, what was his name? Anyway, in Bethlehem, Hasbun. He is Hasbun. He's from the Hasbun family. He wanted an orange grove. It was impossible to have it in Bethlehem because of the land, the kind of land. He went to Beit Dajan near Jaffa, bought an orange grove, worked on it, prepared a house in it, and went back to Bethlehem to get his family to Beit Dajan. Now, his wife told him, we must take your sister. She's not married. We can't leave her alone in the house. So they brought the sister, her name was Magdi. And they went to live in Bethlehem. Now, before she left, she made good connections with, she knew the embroidery centers that are in Bethlehem. Now, the family have moved to live in Beit Dajan. In Beit Dajan, she became a friend of the wife of the Bayarji, the man responsible for the orange grove. And that woman was preparing her trousseau. She had embroidered the pieces of cross stitch, left them aside. So Manny told her, get them for me, I like to see them. She saw them and she told her, she asked her, would you like me to embroider our Bethlehem embroidery on your Beit Dajan dress? I can leave it side by side on your dresses. And the other woman, of course, she loved the idea. And she agreed that she would give them to Manny. And Manny told her, I will do some of it free, but the rest will have to be paid for in Bethlehem. So She takes the pieces to Bethlehem, gets them embroidered, gets them back to Beit Dajan, and she wears them. The bride wears it, and she wears that wedding formal dress, and all the girls see it, and they the same. So they come back to Monday and tell her, we are in spring. Spring is near, and we are getting married, and we want the same embroidery on our dresses. So the Monday brought the fashion from Bethlehem, which is the same pattern even, to Beit Dajan, and the girls that generation had it on the dress, and it stayed on and on.
We want to show it
You
to everyone.
want to hold it, show the ugly, and show the triangles down. It is very much work that has been done by Mandi.
So
Triangles also have the
time, huh? Mende can be considered the designer of her time.
Just put it like this. So you see how much silver has been put on it by Mandi. And now all the girls wanted the same. These are the triangles on the sides. And Mandi started this business. She rented a place, a center in Bethlehem, and started back and forth, taking dresses, pieces that are embroidered with a cross stitch, back to Bethlehem to have the couching put on them and back again. And later on, other villages copied the same thing. So this stitch became the Bethlehem work, became all around Jaffa and Ramle area, which is beautiful. Now, another story which shows you the change, because this thing changes the costumes and according to their taste. There was a man, Abu Salim, in Jerusalem, who had a very good fabric shop, and he used to go to Aleppo twice a year to get new fabrics for the woman and for the men. This year he went to Aleppo, and he was invited by the wife of the owner. And when they were at dinner, she told him, listen, you always take this Ghabani fabric. It's a beautiful fabric called Ghabani. It's machine embroidery on silk, on rosa silk. You always take that to make kaftans for men. Why don't you start it for women? She told her, no, they will not accept. I don't want to start it, they won't accept. She told him, no, you should try. You should expose it in a beautiful way, and I'm sure they might change their mind. So he took a whole lot of this Ghabani fabric, and when he went back to Jerusalem, he exposed it from one corner in the shop to the other. So everybody who passed the street saw it. And women from the villages around Jerusalem saw this fabric and came in. The first village that bought from this fabric was Lifta, women from Lifta. And they quickly saw how they can get the Bethlehem embroidered pieces and use them on that Lifta fabric. And this is, again, we start with the sleeve. This is the fabric. This is the beautiful Ghabani fabric. And they put on it pieces of Bethlehem embroidery that were made by women, put in the shops for sale, And this is what we call the kabbe, the most important piece in the dress, and it is all couching. And this is on the other sleeve, just to point to you, the same pattern that was copied by Mandi. They call it the clock, and they mean by it the span of life. The clock is life, and then the things running from the clock is also life. Yeah.
And I just wanted to point. St. Widad, we know that Palestinian embroidery is famous for its cross stitch, اللي هي قطبة الصليب.
Yes.
لكنه this one you mentioned a couple of times the word crouching, which is, I just wanted to explain it to our audience that this was special and it was created through, it's a different, it's a different type of embroidery work, correct?
Different, very much different. And it was started in Bethlehem, and then all the villages around Jerusalem and Bethlehem had it. We don't know its origin. We see something like it on the men's kaftans and the men's abayas. We see something like similar, but we don't know. It might be connected with, because we see also something similar in some church embroidery. And because Bethlehem has so many churches, it might be. We're not very sure. But it could have come from either Syria, the men's things in Syria, or the churches.
And the couching is usually in gilded thread, or is it in all?
Well, it is a silk thread, and they put it with gold, something goldy, or something silver, more silver. In Bethlehem, they had gold only, but in the other villages, they preferred the silver coating.
Yes, yeah. And Widad, you said that a lot of the fabrics began to, or used to come from Syria. So we have this connection between the fabrics where you explained to me how wonderful the relationship between fabrics and workmanship and the threads that come from Egypt, for example. If you can just tell our audience about it.
Because they would either use cotton, linen, or silk. All the silks to all the Arab world came from Syria. They had produced silk for generations. And they also produced the silk threads. Now, in Egypt, they grew cotton and they grew linen. Sometimes the people in Palestine would bring the linen and the cotton as thread and weave it themselves, or in some of their own factories, or they usually bring it as it is woven. But it was, the sources were Egypt for cotton and linen, and the silk was from Syria. And sometimes the linen would come from Turkey, and they called it rubi. Rubi, the room. That is, Turkey is outside, like Bilad al-Rum. And we don't know why they called it ruby, but it is a reference to Bilad al-Rum. And the linen, they like to work on the linen because the threads are apart from each other. They can count, because in the cross stitch, you have to count. First, one thread for a stitch, 2 threads, 3 threads. And in the linen, they can count. In the silk, they cannot. So they would bring some other fabric, put it on the silk in order to embroider. How difficult it is. Yes. Must be very, very difficult to do that. Or put it on the cotton to embroider. But there was a little weaving done in Palestine. In Safad, there was some weaving. In Nablus, there was weaving. And in these villages, sometimes weavers would come from Egypt and make a center in the center of the town, they told me, the Beit Januban, and start weaving their linen and leave it with them and leave the linen with them. So it was very, very little done in Palestine, and later on it became more and more. But it was imported from Egypt and Syria mainly.
And Widad, through your collecting, you made friendships with so many women and you saw their empowerment, their power. A lot of people think that these women are powerless. And you were telling me the stories of how these women were powerful in their own home.
Yes. When you see them outside, you think that they are either sometimes mistreated, they are not getting their rights, they're not clever. But when you mix with them and you know their life inside with their family, you have a different picture. For instance, when there are difficulties in a family, it's the woman who solves the difficulties. I had few experiences where I saw how they managed. They are good managers, whether in the village or in the camp life, the refugee camp. They are very good managers. For instance, I asked a young man, he said he doesn't have anybody, he's not where he is. I told him, but he was visiting his mother and I was there. I told him, well, what do you do when you don't have the money or you don't have anything at all? He said, I tell my children, come on, dress up. I'm taking you to grandma. Because he said, whenever I come to my mother, she can, in half an hour to 1 hour, fix the best meal. And the children enjoy it and we enjoy it. And I told him how. He said, we have a long list of something called fette. And the fette needs bread, some bread, and every home has bread. Rice, every home has rice. And a vegetable, which should be, the vegetable would be around. And she quickly forms a fette out of what is found from the vegetables, and the children enjoy it. And we never feel that nobody from us has the money to buy a good meal. And this is how it goes. This is one way. And once a Norwegian team told me about nutrition, they told me the women look for what is in season. And when the tomatoes are in season, they themselves, the Norwegians, enjoyed it. They told me the tomatoes, one night they are tomatoes with potatoes, one night they are with eggs, one night they are with onions, and every dish has a name. And everybody enjoyed those tomatoes. So who manages all this and plans? This needs planning. It's the mother, it's the woman. And she doesn't let the children feel that they cannot afford a good meal, or the husband.
So true. And as Widad, you told me an interesting fact that these women keep their key in the side pocket of
every home in the village or in the camp has a cupboard called Damliye. It is a very simple cupboard. And this cupboard has the important papers, the passports, the little chocolate they have. Sometimes they have little biscuits they put there. Everything valuable they put in this Damliye. And the Damliye has a key. Of course, they're afraid the children will play around. So they close the Damliye. And when the husband comes in, I was there and the husband came in and he stretched his hand and told her, Atini. I didn't know what is Atini. Atini meant he wanted the key. So she put her hand under her kabbe and pulled out the key. She hides the key here. She gave it to him and told him, now you get it back quickly. Take what you want and put it back, which shows that she's in control of the important things in the house, including the body, including whatever was precious. So it is a different picture.
So Widad, when they work on the front of the dresses, do they also work on the back of it, or is the back usually plain?
No, they have the top part of the back, the top part of the costume worked. It has a certain style. And the lower back is also embroidered. The lower back of the costume is always embroidered. Unless the woman is a widow, sometimes they don't embroider the back.
Okay. And your collection was growing and you have exhibited in many countries around the world. Some examples are Germany, Switzerland, France, UK, Ireland, Denmark, Japan, Singapore, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and many, many more. I can't count them all. But I thought maybe you could share with us these examples, one or two of the examples of the exhibitions that you did across the world.
Really, I never thought in the beginning, I wasn't looking for it very, very much. I was afraid of many things, but when I had them, I saw they really have a value, and the values that I really care for, like awareness of the Arab heritage, like many, many other sides to it. But yes, in every time something would happen that is, to me, would be odd. Like in Denmark, I entered and saw the men working. They were working with the wood. The wood part was all men doing it. There were about 10 men working. And they were too serious. And I tried to talk to them. They were not interested. They were not interested in the dresses or serious, but working well. And I asked the lady responsible, who are they? She told me they are our prisoners. We get them out. They are all very clever. They like to work. And it's a change for them. And now, if you like, we can sit with them for our coffee at 11 o'clock. We sit with them for the coffee. And we did. And then there I talked with them about the costumes a little. Now, yeah, there are always things happening.
So you were very impressed by the way the Western world makes use of the museums and the way they bring in their prisoners, the way they bring in their children. You were telling me
prisoners were treated and had coffee and were respected. That was really shocking for me.
And you had also children coming in and visiting your exhibitions.
Yeah. Now, the exhibits were really worthwhile. And it's worthwhile to continue these exhibits outside because, number one, I noticed many Arabs come to see the exhibits, as though these Arabs are not in contact with their culture. So when they hear of something like that, they bring their children, they bring their friends, their European friends, and they come hungry to see and to show their children the culture, the Arab culture. And another experience I had in one of the exhibits, I had a group of men coming to me and they didn't look happy. They looked a little angry. And they told me, why do you have only Palestine and Jordan? Why don't you represent our countries too? What's your countries? They said, Yemen, Maghreb, Syria, and we all have beautiful things. And I promised them that the next time I will bring, but I saw how difficult it is for those Arabs to get in contact or to show their children any Arab culture. Because one of them was worried. He said, how will my children live going in there speaking Norwegian and going and living in an Arab society in the village? Everybody is going to laugh at them. He said, we eat well, we have nice apartments, but we are away from our culture. And this makes us really upset. So it was really worth it to have these. They all brought their children. Yes. And their neighbors, they brought their neighbors too, who were Norwegians sometimes. And I felt sad for them because they would love to be in contact with some kind of continuous Arab culture. Maybe this would be one day for Arab Zay, the Arab Zay Association to do.
This is another exhibition that you did, Widad, and I know that with every exhibition you did, you were very conscious to make sure that there is a book that is published with it, correct?
Yeah, that was really a great advantage. The Japanese, who are so different from our culture, they were the first to do, and they did it so well. They sent a team of photographers, about 3, in their own car, in their own equipment, and they produced this book. Wow. This book. And the man who did it, this is the cover for it. The man who did it, the photographer, took a prize because the pictures inside are really beautiful. They're beautiful in color. He took a prize for his photography. Yes. He was sent to photograph cultures on the Silk Road. This is a beautiful subject, Silk Road. But when he finished, there was nothing for him to do. He came to the embassy. He said,
beautiful images.
Oh, how nice. This is Gaza. Maybe you can show us the lifter. Nothing for him to do, and Jordan was not on the Silk Road, so he stayed in the embassy. The ambassador brought him to me. He saw what I have, and he said, "Well, this is part of my work. you have the silk things on the dresses. So it's connected with the silks coming on the Silk Road. And he went back to Japan. He brought the another photographer, you see. This is what in Jerusalem the silk looked like.
Yes.
This is beside the Ghabadi, striped silk.
That's
and you can see the couching on the sides and the kabbe.
Yes. Amazing.
Yeah.
And
on the whole, to end it up, the exhibits were, I think, the best work done because of the effect, the awareness they made, and the effect not only, which we don't think about, not only on the foreigners, they did have an effect on the foreigners, on the Arabs. The Arabs that are migrants there and have not been home and are there for a long time, and their children are growing in a foreign community.
Widad, these books mostly are out of print by now, correct? Or are they still available?
Because usually they're printed by the museums. Yes. The museums take them, send them to all other museums, to schools, and stop. But really, it's worthwhile to, this, for instance, is you know how the Germans work. Yes. They said, we don't want to produce a catalog which will be put on the shelf. We want a catalog which would be a reference. And this is really a reference because you have every item with something written, a paragraph written about it, where it was used, how it was used, and the embroidery on it, and the fabric on it. And really, they worked very hard on this. And pracht and geheimnis, I know, they told me, means when you look at some of our costumes, you find sometimes an odd color in a piece of red embroidery, you find a little yellow or something. And you might ask, why this yellow? And the yellow is against the evil eye, because she doesn't want to be wearing that dress and walking, and people will say, how beautiful. Then she will fall and break her leg. But when she has this yellow, they will say, Shuhada, she doesn't know how to embroider. Look at the yellow in the red. So they used it in the, German. They used it in the name of the book. That Secrets and Splendor. The secret is the mistake, and the splendor is the embroidery.
A lot of the audience are asking about these books, and I want to just point out that we have a bibliography of books and resources on the Zay Initiative website. And when you join and become a friend of the Zay Initiative, you'll get a whole list of all of this information. We will make the names and titles of these books available for you, for those who are interested. And you can look it up through our website. So don't worry, we'll make sure that you will have all this information.
Very good.
And we will have it available for anyone who is interested. We go from the exhibitions and we move into another period of your life, and that is the creation of the Tiraz, Home of Arab Dress. And I thought you would like to maybe give us an idea of how did that journey come about? What got you to do this?
Yeah, I always wanted a place for the costumes. I felt they are homeless if they stay like that. And you wouldn't believe they stayed about maybe between 5, some of them, to 10 years going around in exhibits. So I was very happy to have a home for them. And when one of the houses around us was for sale, we wanted to have, when it comes back from Europe, after 10 years in Europe, that they would come back to this home and we would. And I started looking for helpers. I did introduce them at the beginning of the program, but here they are. I was lucky to have a designer, Salwa Qadad, and she loves to set up exhibits. She loves to set up exhibits. And then introduce yourself.
We need to see you, Salwa.
Ruba, you want them to stand up?
I have my mask on. It's difficult to see me. Hi.
Lovely to see you, Salwa. You've been great help with all of this and the preparations. Amazing work you guys are doing. And where is Arwa?
And Ruba Taher.
Yes, Zahir. Hello,
Hi,
I'm
Ruba.
Ruba Zahir.
Hi.
I'm the creator.
Hello, Ruba. Nice to meet you.
For you to see
Yeah.
me, but I'm here.
And I know Mary is somewhere in the background as well.
Mary
Dad's daughter.
and Leila is for the media with the help of Ruba.
Hello.
And Mary is in administration. When I'm
Yes.
tired from administration, she takes over. Yeah.
Well, they are very lucky to be working with you. And
To have them. They're all sincere, and they have, as you use the word passion in your subject, they have the passion for the work. It's very, very important to have a passion for the work. Because we have been producing in the beginning, not many guests. I can't boast and say many people came to see Tiraz. Some people came, but it's not in their lifestyle, in their habit to get their children and come like in Europe.
Yes.
So we started making exhibits, and exhibits attract people very, very, very much. They attract all kinds of people, parents and children. And we started with an exhibit, of course, with the help of the people we just met, and the designing of Salwa. The first exhibit was on Bethlehem. Everything about Bethlehem, everything, even the old streets of Bethlehem and their embroidery and their fabrics. And then the second was on Bedouin weaving, and we even brought Bedouin women to put the loom in Tiraz and start weaving, and the wool, and we showed all the stages of weaving. And we also had one on amulets. This was beautiful. Amulets, you know what are amulets? It's what the people believe in, the Arabs, all the Arab world. When they have too many boys in the family, the last baby, they cover him with so many amulets so that they will not have the evil eye. And the amulets come in many forms. And we also had a silver man to come and talk to the people and show them how they made the amulets in their shop, and talk to the people about amulets. And amulets also come in beads. And we also have now, at the present, we have a very interesting, they all work from all their heart in it. A very interesting exhibit, homage to Syria or respect to Syria. It's because Syria is going through so much of destroying its culture and its heritage. And we have a lot of the Syrian things, beautiful things we have from Syria. So we used what we have in order to show the people the Syrian heritage. And we are looking forward to make another one on big cities in Jordan, one on Karak and maybe one on Salt. And the other day, a man gave us the idea of, why don't you make one on the loaf of bread from the time it is planted until the time it comes out of the oven or out of the taboo. There are many subjects connected with our heritage that are interesting.
But you are mainly focusing on costume, dress, and accessories that are related.
Yeah, that's right. But we also want people to come, and children. We want children to come.
And
they are interested in.
How are you engaging with these children?
They make special items for them, like drawing. They prepare for them part of the dress and they finish, or they color the dress, or we tell them stories. It's not easy. The children's part is not easy. We have a children's museum here, and we see we can manage. But with the dresses for older people and the children, it's not easy to manage programs. But they become interested slowly.
Yes.
Not the very young ones, a little older.
Widad, in your journey, you have amassed one of the largest collections and archives on Arab dress. And you have a reputable institution. what is your hope for the future?
I hope that I have nearly did one or two things of my aims. May I mention them just before I go to the last one? One thing is you admired very much the patterns that you saw on the dresses. A friend of mine called Tanya Nasser and myself saw that the people in their embroidery are mixing up patterns. They mix up one area and another, and they mix up between what is Palestinian and what is Polish and what is East Europe and what is Egyptian. And we saw this coming. We know how dangerous it is. Very soon they will forget their patterns and start on other people's patterns. And then we thought that we must do something for this.
Yes.
We put some other ladies with us, Hala Brahim, and two other ladies, Iman Dajani, and our advisor was an elderly woman, Ibrahim, who did the embroidery piece by piece. These are pieces of fabric. It was really hectic and very difficult to do. These are pieces of fabric that we cut the same size and we sent to perfect embroideresses with Ibrahim to embroider every area. We took the patterns from our costumes back to them and let them embroider. And they did every area alone. Now you come here to Beersheba area and then the patterns of Beersheba. You come to Ramallah area and the patterns of Ramallah. It took us a long time, a hectic time, but we did it. And now when you go to the camps, the book that is used most, I wish I brought some of these books, and worn out, we see them worn out, is this book. They love it, they use it, and we are soon going to have another print and distribute freely, villages and camps. They're going to be published soon.
Who published that book that you created with the patterns? When did you first publish it? When was it published when you worked on it?
What year did you find out? And it was published again and again and again, 3 times published. But maybe in the, it was a long time ago. But the effect of it, people use it. People, I mean, these women are not waiting for
96.
What is it?
96.
96? 96. Yeah.
Yes.
This is one of the
Is this-
accomplishments that I did with Tanya Nasser. We worked very, very well, and we promised people in that book, a sentence somewhere, that this will be followed up by the coaching, by a book on coaching. But we did. We're too lazy now to follow up and to go through the same difficulty again. It was not easy, this book, because you have to master. We had to check every page to get the perfect embroiderers to check to see if there is anything wrong, because the wrong might be copied again and again.
And this book was used also, you said to me, by different women in villages. They took it, when you produced this book, these women were taking this book and using it as their guide, correct?
Yes, as their guide up till now. And they come to my door with the worn out one, mazza, very, very badly used. And they tell me, please take this and give me a new one. But we are going to do it.
But it is very interesting because through this, you managed to keep them working in the same system. So they continued the same tradition without changing it, which is very good for preserving.
Yes, they can open her area and follow up from that area.
Exactly.
And sometimes they come and argue with me. You put this, we are not very sure it's from our area. But I enjoy it. I like it in them, that they stick to the correct, that they are trying to find out the correct patterns of their area.
Amazing. And Widad, do you have any advice for people working on the textile and heritage in the Arab world? I know you are angry with that, with us because we haven't done enough as a nation, as people.
No, I think what as an organization, it's
No,
wonderful you thought of this. It's wonderful. The Arab dress. It is the Arab dress that should be protected. But I tell you, our heritage is in danger. Very, very strong danger from right and left and everywhere. And don't ask me, the listeners this is the homework of the listeners. They should find out if they are interested, find out where is that danger and try and protect the heritage. Because if we stay on this same way, our heritage is gone. And it is part of our identity, part of our history, part of our past. We can't afford this. You are doing something great with your organization. But yet there are other sides in the heritage where people are interested in. They can pick what they like, follow it up, and be honest about it. Because some people also who write in heritage, بخارته, you know what's بخارته. They just invent. They don't follow up the right facts.
Yeah.
And they can start with their homes. They can start with the photos. Piles of photos in homes are thrown in the garbage because people don't know who these are. They have inherited them way back from the family. They are thrown in the garbage because nobody wrote on their back the names of the people and the year. We can start with the photographs that are half of the photographs in the Arab world go in the garbage. Yeah. And another thing, if there is any elderly lady in the family, it is so important to talk to her and write down her history. The fact, her parents, who are her parents, where did they come from, the schools they went to. It will show the civilization, the culture of that Arab country at that time. Or else, the history alone, facts and politics alone are not enough. People are more interested in the culture. This is why we should give the chance. This is another homework for the listeners to find out about the family from the elderly that are now around. Very soon, these people are not around and they will find nobody to tell them what's the name of their grandmother or their grandfather. Nobody. Because they have to do it at the right time. This is my advice. The second advice is to be patient. They have to be patient in their work. I was very patient, and sometimes they give me appointments and they never come, or I go, I never find them. But you have to be patient. Yeah. And you have to be honest. You can't just invent in heritage. Heritage is like science. It has facts. And the facts should be recorded down honestly, not taking a piece from this book, because I go through this. I used to get angry, now I don't care. I find my writings taken by anybody. They write their name under it, and that's finished. We worked, Tanya and myself were so much on this book. Most of this book was taken by other people, and our names just out of it. Yes. So they should be patient, whoever is working in heritage, and they should be honest about the facts. And heritage is a very, very important subject to us. I hope more and more people like you would work on it so well.
Thank you. Thank you. So Widad, yes?
Good luck.
Thank you. So Widad, you leave me really speechless with all that you have achieved. I'm overwhelmed with your ambitions and amazing stories. The path is still very long and the responsibility is very heavy. I pray we at the Zay Initiative can walk through your footsteps, channeling your enthusiasm and perseverance, and pass the torch in turn to those who follow. I want to thank you for the time that you have given us, for sharing those precious memories your words, as ever, will always resonate within me personally, really. So thank you so much by honoring us with this evening. I am truly, truly lucky to have you as a friend.
And thank you, Reem. Thank you very, very much. And whatever you said about me, I will repeat it and say it to you, because you are also working hard. I know how hard it is. And you don't find the help that you dreamt of. But you still find people who are enthusiastic, who help you, who give you a push. And this is enough, and it's important.
What is interesting?
I hope we will collaborate again on the dress in the Arab world.
Inshallah, yes, we will. And I find it interesting that, or ironic that the obstacles that you faced and the issues and nuances that you raised, we are facing them within our team. When I heard you talk about them, they resonated within me. How difficult it is to research the subject, how much time it takes, how difficult it is to find researchers that understand and know how to write about these things. And when we are trying to do it in 2 languages, Arabic and English at the same time, it even compiles the amount of work that needs to be done. So I don't know. I hope we will be أهل لهالمسؤولية and be able to carry it forward, inshallah.
You are, and all the best wishes for your work. I hope it will go on and expand.
Well, before you go, what a fascinating talk. There are literally questions coming in everywhere, and also a massive request that we do a further talk on Jordanian dress in a few months' time as well. So Widad, I hope, I'm speaking on behalf of Dr. Reem, we'd love to welcome you back in a couple of months to do a further talk on Jordanian dress. But I think let's get some of these questions, Widad, if you have time now. And we'll see how we get on. I'm going to start from the top because that only seems fair. And this is quite a tough question to start with. And a challenge for many Arab curators and collectors is addressing what happens to a private collection upon the inevitable death of an owner. Yeah. How can we, your fellow Arab curators, help you plan ahead without stepping on sensitive terrain?
Yeah. And if this nice group stays with me, the ladies you see, then I think these things will go on, and yeah, we might go to other costumes like the Jordanian, as you said. I didn't mention it here, though I worked a little on it, but then they are changing. They're changing too bad. They're leaving their handwork. Maybe you will find this in most countries, leaving the handwork to machinery. Leaving, خلاص. They don't want.
I think that.
But my group is interested in handwork. The ladies working with me that you met now are interested in the handwork, and we look for it.
Yes.
Just beautiful. Dr. Reem?
Because now you have all those sewing machines doing all kinds of embroidery.
Very true.
And they're so happy about it. When they show it to you, they're so happy. But the machine is the enemy of heritage machines, embroidery by machines.
I think it is the most challenging part, if I may respond to that question. I think it's the most challenging part that I find while working in this field that relates to anything that's related to culture, is that what happens to these collections? We have so many scattered collections around the Arab world, and we hoped that through our work, we can bring them all together. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We don't want to create new collections. There are beautiful collections around, and it is very important to put them together to make sure they are documented. We make sure they are available. We are lucky today. We are living in a time of technology where things can be digitalized. As part of our work in the ZAY initiative is we've been trying to get everything that we can lay our hand on digitalized and available on a global level. It requires a colossal amount of time, money, effort. And you are seeing two women now. We are doing it on our own. I mean, Widad has been doing it for the past 50, 60 years on her own. It's individual effort. She's the one who funds everything and works on it. And I think it is very important to educate the public that their contributions, no matter how small they are, will go a long way to whatever we are doing. So please, I will turn the question to the person who who presented it, who is a very close friend of mine, and say, join us and come and work with us so that we can preserve this culture.
Very, very good. And then a follow-on, Dr. Reem, directly for you. How can we make donating to a reputable museum's collections a part of our culture, and should we?
I think what Widad just said a few minutes ago, when she was expressing how in the West, or even in the Far East, when people go to visit museums, it is part of their culture. It is built within childhood. Parents educate their children about the importance of these institutions, these collections, these exhibitions. They encourage them to visit, they encourage them to go. It becomes part and parcel of their DNA. And that is what we need to do. We need to educate, we need to introduce this to our children, our generations to come, and entrust that they will be able to carry this torch and move on and become part of their daily life. If we don't set an example, it's going to be very difficult for our children to learn. And I think Widad expressed that, a minute ago.
And in addition, we should influence our education curriculums to have it as one period a week at least on their curriculum, on the school curriculum, because these are made in the governments, the curriculum, to have one period for culture.
Very true.
So true. I think this is a lovely question to sort of continue from that. From Sarah, what was the intangible heritage that Widad was looking for during her journey? What was the intangible heritage that you were looking for during your journey?
I think it's the stories of the women, Widad.
It's their life history. I wanted to see the life history because we had so many wars and so many troubles in this area. I wanted to see how women, especially women, how they went through all these difficulties and kept their families, and what happened when they moved, when they left one place and just moved to the other. And I wanted to know more and more about the women. Sometimes I would forget the embroidery because I wanted to know more about their life.
Yes, that's very true.
Just beautiful. Yeah. From Layla, I know it was set as homework, but I'd be keen to hear what Widad thinks about Arab heritage is in danger. So what Widad thinks that Arab heritage is in danger, and is it danger or eradication, or just danger of changing?
Eradication. Danger from other nations taking over something, a subject, a whole subject. Maybe another country would take Bedouin weaving, for instance. How can I prove that these Bedouins in Jordan are originally, they are Arabs, they are Bedouins, but they are Arabs, they are Jordanians, and they have been doing this weaving for such a long time. But I see it in other countries, the same patterns, the same work, the same technique, and given the name of that country, which I think is not fair.
No, I couldn't agree more.
This is one way. This is one way of one country taking over. The other dangers is what you said, Reem, that if the children do not have any special training in appreciating their own culture, it will die out. There won't be people around to appreciate it, to admire it, to follow it up. It will die out. There must be some kind of educational system to make children grow up and enjoy their culture, their own culture.
You know, Widad, I was speaking to a friend of mine. His name is Rashad Salim, and he's working on the culture in Iraq. And sadly, he said to me, you know, you have to count yourself the proud generation when the traditional craft of Iraq is going to end, because with us, it's no longer existent. Sadly, we are the people who have not continued this tradition. There are only a handful of people in Iraq now who can work and understand the traditional crafts of Iraq, especially the making of the busat, the Iraqi ones in the south. And sadly, these women are going to die and nobody has been training under them. So it will end. So we have a duty, I think, to our nation, to our people, to our history, to our children, to our future, that we make sure to be vigilant about this and take action one way or the other.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think,
Yeah.
sorry, Widad.
No, nothing. I
Shall
want to hear you.
Shall I go to the next question? Start changing the subject completely. What was it like working with Christian Lacroix for the Paris K. Brunley exhibition? Did he approach the subject from a purely aesthetic perspective? I know Hannah Shadag was the main curator, but I wondered about your interactions with Lacroix.
May I hear the question again?
Of course.
The first part.
Your interaction with Lacroix. What was it like working with Christian Lacroix?
It was really very, very, very interesting, because what I heard about him in the beginning and how my relation with him. What I heard about him is that he's very critical. And when he came and saw the dresses starting to hang, so they were starting to hang the dresses, and saw the carpet and saw the furniture, some of the pieces in the museum, he was very upset. And they said, I won't take this job unless you change the carpet. The carpet had its own patterns. So he didn't want the patterns of the carpet with the patterns of the dresses. And this was one thing. And another thing, and the coloring. There were certain colors used. And they had to change for him. They had to change. But when I went first to meet him, he came from across the room and I was embarrassed. He kissed my hand. He said, I want to kiss, and he looked at the rest of the staff and he said, I want to kiss the hand of the woman who gave me the opportunity to look at these beautiful colors put together in such a way. Yeah, I enjoyed your colors so much that I was seeing them and dreaming about them at night. This was my first meeting with him. And then he told me how much he enjoyed working on these things. But he made the museum angry because he didn't want to change the carpet. It costed them so much. So it's a big carpet. But it had a pattern on it, which was wrong to buy a carpet with a pattern, because you can have many exhibits with patterns on them. This was my relationship with him. Hannah, I don't know what to say, because I worked in some museums where I had very good relationship with. It didn't go deep. My relationship with her, no, so I made this exhibit back home, خلاص, it ended. But with other museums, the relationship became a friendship. But with Hannah, although she's the only Arab I worked with, she was all right and she knew about their things. But the relationship did not continue. Maybe she is too much engrossed in her own work.
I think I would agree with you on the point of making friendships. our friendship grew from getting to know each other.
Meeting. Yeah. And all those that I worked with up till now, we write each other, we ask about each other. It is, we are interested in the same field. This is very important. When they hear something about our field, they write me and we do the same thing. But if you are not very interested, it stops. You want to cut off.
Widad, are you getting tired or shall we continue? There are lots of questions. What do you
If you're a good judge, look at the questions. If there is anything worthwhile for the audience to hear, you decide.
Shall I just pick out a couple more and then shall we answer the rest via email maybe tomorrow when we respond, because the questions are just wonderful and I could never say that none of them are sort of better. That they're all absolutely beautiful, beautiful questions. Lots of things about, maybe we could do a talk on Syrian dress with you. Lots of things about whether embroidery, needlework should be taught in schools. When you stitch, you share stories of your life and culture, which is heritage. So I think all of these maybe we could address tomorrow, Dr. Reem, via email. But I think a really interesting question that a sort of statement stroke question has come up that I would love to address to both of you. Two of them. Firstly, how can we join and participate in the saving of information? And then secondly, and Dr. Reem, this is predominantly for you, to give Sit Without a little rest, can the Zay Initiative create a platform that would make it easy and standardized for small collectors to contribute pictures of their dresses to a global catalogue? I would love my own collection to be preserved and recorded in this way. I would also love some guidance about how and where to bequeath my collection so it will return to its proper heritage.
First of all, come to the Zay Initiative. We welcome any collection.
Yeah.
Secondly, it's a very tough question. It's a very good question, but it's a very difficult one to respond to. How can we preserve small collections? How can we help others to keep their collections? What do they do with them? How can we use our platform to showcase these pieces?
Yeah.
Yes, anything is possible.
Maybe if we encourage them, you see, schools, clubs love to hear about collections. That's part of the culture. If we can encourage them to speak every now and then somewhere, to bring them in contact with people and see how people appreciate their work. Even if they don't appreciate their work, they'll come out with questions and they'll make them look for the answers for those questions if they don't have enough. It's getting the collector not to leave him alone too much, getting the collector more in touch with the public. And I feel I can do it because I'm in contact with some schools and some clubs. And we can always ask people to give a simple lecture. This is one way. The other way, I am a disorganized person. Too bad. But people who are organized should always start seeing where their weakness is and work to continue to fill in those gaps. They will make lists and they will see where the gaps are, but they need encouragement. Also making a network of people who work in the same subject to find out. How can they find out? I don't know. They must find out people who work in the same subject and get together in emails and letters and whatever, and give each other some push, some advice, tell them about a new book, a new magazine, a new museum that is open somewhere. Contacts are very, very important for anybody starting a collection, small or large. Contacts with people, with specialists are very important. Salwa, I'm sure you have something to add because you have some contact with collectors.
Yeah.
What will help them really? Because that's a good question, because you find them most of the time tired and fed up and saying, "Khalas, I want to leave, finished. I want to leave collecting." It's too tiring. It's costing me my life, my time, my money. But there must be some way of getting those people more in contact.
Yeah, they might have a network together.
Together, sort of a network.
Yeah.
Network is the best thing. You get them together, they exchange their, they put off some of the things. They exchange their ideas, their problems, and they might feel better this way. But there was another part to the question. Wasn't there? Or it's the same, Denmark and...
Emma, was
Yes.
there another mark to the question? Was there another part to the question?
I think you've answered it brilliantly, and I think anything else we can potentially go back on further. I think it's been the most wonderful 90 minutes, and I'm very aware of the time for everyone. I'm sure lots of people have commitments to go on to, and also sit with that. I'm very conscious you've given us so much of your valuable time, and it's just been fabulous. And I think what's really key is that we bring you back, hopefully, in a few months' time, and we have a further session. There are so many questions. We will save them. We will talk with them, with your team, and we will come back to the audience. If anyone feels I haven't asked their question, please do drop me an email, emma@thezay.org, and I can do my very best to connect everyone. So all it remains for me to say is thank you so much. We've been absolutely privileged to have you with us today. Dr. Reem, I know, is going to jump in and say something. Dr. Reem, please, why don't you end it? Thank you.
Many were asking about other collections or other dress histories and stories. If you look in front of you, we are holding a number of webinars that are coming up. One is focused on Egypt. Another one will be focusing on Palestinian dress, but on a contemporary fashion, which is through the use of art and we are collaborating with Naqsh group in order to talk about that. And we have another one on the Bedouin dress of Egypt, which with the esteemed Tahira Mahriz as well. So there are many other talks that are coming up to highlight and enlighten us.
Very encouraging. It's nice to hear it.
Yes.
It's very encouraging to see the response.
There is a lot of response. Actually, Widad, we are booked on our webinars till next April, which is unbelievable. Not this April 2021, but April of 2022.
But don't worry, Widad, we will fit you in.
Everybody has been, interested. They are interested in listening. A lot of people are listening to these talks because it opened a window to our culture, and they want to learn and they want to know about it, which is very, very encouraging. We also do the blogs, and we have a blog that comes out every week, and we focus on different topics related to dress and culture and heritage. And it goes out with on our website, and you can view that anytime you like. There are many ways for you to interact with us. You need to become our friend, one of the ways that you could do that, and you will be getting our newsletter to understand what is happening and when it is happening. And I would love it to record a few more of these sessions with Widad and learn from her experience, inshallah, in the future.
Very, very good. But your advice is to stick to what is happening in our field only, or I think it should be like that.
Yes, I totally agree.
In my field, I should be looking for in my field. If I expand, I will get lost.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you have done is
not enough to contain itself.
I think you're amazing in what you've done, and I thank you, and I think we all thank you for the work and the years that you've put into this.
Thank you all. Thank you very much for arranging this, and we hope we will inspire people who have been listeners. Yeah. And thank you very much. We'll be in touch again.
Widad, shukran.
Shukran. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And thank you to our wonderful audience for all your engaged questions as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.